I raised my daughter, Kelsey, alone. Her father walked out when she was barely 2, leaving nothing but a note on the fridge that read, "Not cut out for this." I remember holding that crumpled note in one hand and her sippy cup in the other, trying to figure out how I'd pay rent, feed her, and keep my job at the same time. I cleaned offices during the day and washed dishes in diners at night. There were days when I wore gloves not for the cold, but to hide the blisters, but I never complained. Because every time I looked at her, I saw hope. Please subscribe to our channel and tell me in comments from where are you watching this video. Kelsey was everything to me. I poured everything I had into giving her a better life. While I packed her school lunches with handwritten notes, other kids had store-bought snacks, but mine had messages of love folded in napkins. When she got older, I worked triple shifts just so I could afford tutoring for her SATs and later her university tuition. I even sold my grandmother's jewelry to help cover her dorm deposit. I never told her how much I gave up. I never asked for gratitude. I just wanted her to have the life I never could. She did well, graduated from a prestigious university, landed a job in marketing, and soon after married a man whose family owned several apartment buildings downtown. I remember the first time I met them. His mother looked me up and down and asked if I had a coat to change into before dinner. I had worn my best, a navy dress I'd saved up for, but to them it was dated. Still, I smiled, bit my tongue, and toasted their engagement with a cheap glass of wine I'd brought myself because I knew they preferred vintage whites. I tried to convince myself that their coldness didn't matter as long as Kelsey was happy. Years passed, and the distance grew. She called less, visited almost never. Her voice became clipped, formal, like she was speaking to a coworker, not a mother. But when she finally invited me to her baby shower, I took it as a sign that maybe, just maybe, she was coming back around. I bought a beautiful hand-knit blanket from a local artisan, wrapped it in pink silk, and took a day off work I could barely afford. I even had my hair done, the first time in years. When I walked into that upscale venue, I knew I didn't belong. Crystal chandeliers, gold-trimmed baby shower favors, guests in pearls and tailored dresses. But I kept my chin up, heart pounding in my chest, because I was there for my daughter. Then, it happened. A hostess approached me politely and asked, "Are you the caterer?" Before I could answer, I heard Kelsey's voice from behind. "Oh no," she said with a quick laugh. "That's just my childhood housekeeper." Time stopped. Laughter from her friends trickled across the room like slow poison. My throat closed. I stood there, frozen, while she walked away as if she hadn't just shattered something inside me. My hands clenched the ribbon of the pink-wrapped gift so tightly it left indentations in my palms. Not mother, not mom, not even parent. Just housekeeper, erased in a heartbeat from the story of her life, rewritten as some hired help. But what Kelsey had forgotten, what she never even knew, was that the house she grew up in, the one I worked 3 jobs to save for and paid off in full when she was in high school, still had my name on the deed. And what's more, she was now renting it out to some of her husband's friends. She bragged about owning that home at dinner parties, boasted that it was part of their portfolio. So I walked out, not in tears, not in anger, but with a plan, and a folded paper tucked inside my purse that had the power to flip her world upside down. That evening, I sat alone at my kitchen table, staring at a photo of Kelsey from when she was 6, toothless grin, glitter in her hair, hugging my leg like she never wanted to let go. I traced the photo frame with my finger and whispered, "What happened to you, baby?" But no answer came, just the hum of the fridge and the low ache of betrayal sitting heavy in my chest. I opened my file cabinet, pulled out the manila folder I hadn't touched in years, and laid out the original deed to the house. My name, Lorraine Esther Wells, was right there in black ink. No co-owners, no secondary beneficiaries. I owned the place free and clear. Kelsey had never asked about it, never even knew the full story. Her husband had simply assumed, and she had let him. I remembered how I worked as a janitor at the university she studied at just to stay close to her, to be able to afford her tuition without loans. How I scrubbed lecture halls at 3 a.m. while she slept in the dorm I paid for. How I cut back on groceries just to afford her plane tickets home during holidays, only for her to call and cancel because her boyfriend's family had a ski thing. But this baby shower humiliation, this wasn't just a slap. It was a public burial of who I was to her. The next morning, I called my attorney, Nora. She was younger than Kelsey, but sharp as nails and had a soft spot for stories like mine. I told her everything. She went quiet for a moment, then said, "Lorraine, do you want to sell, evict, or just remind them whose name is on the front door?" "Remind them," I said calmly. "But make it stick." We drafted a formal letter. Not eviction, not yet. Just a declaration of intent to reclaim possession of the home within 60 days. Legally sound, unshakable, and carrying a weight they wouldn't ignore. Nora couriered the envelope to the address that afternoon. I didn't hear anything for 3 days. On the 4th day, the call came. It wasn't Kelsey. It was her husband, Darren. His tone was full of feigned charm and condescension. "Lorraine," he said, "there seems to be some mix-up. Kelsey mentioned something about you making a joke at the shower." "Something about a deed?" "No joke," I replied. "I just thought it was time your guests knew who really cleaned up after her childhood." There was silence, then a brittle chuckle. "I'm sure we can work something out. Maybe if you sign over partial rights." "Darren," I cut in exactly 56 days, your tenants will need to vacate the premises. You and Kelsey may want to find alternative housing for your portfolio." I hung up before he could answer. That same night, Kelsey called. Her voice was softer, shaky even. "Mom, I didn't mean it that way. You caught me off guard, and I panicked. You know how those events are. I was nervous." "Nervous enough to erase me?" I asked. "To reduce me to a servant for the sake of your image?" She sighed, and for a second, I thought I heard my little girl again. "I'm sorry. I messed up." "I know," I said, "and I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Actions have weight, Kelsey, and you've been balancing on mine for years." The next week, I posted a notice on the door, not public, just visible. "Property to be returned to legal owner. Please prepare for vacancy." I didn't need to shout or scream. I just let the truth stand in plain sight, silent and powerful. Word spread faster than I expected. Friends who'd been at the baby shower started reaching out. One sent me a message that simply said, "Good for you." The day I showed up to inspect the property, Kelsey and Darren were both there. She looked tired, her belly round beneath a designer maternity dress. I almost softened. Almost. But then remembered that cold laugh at the baby shower, the one that sliced deeper than any insult. I didn't need to raise my voice. I walked through the house I had built with my bare hands, pointing out the repairs they never made, the memories they'd covered with minimalist wallpaper. I ended at the front door, looked her in the eyes, and said, "The only uniform I ever wore in this house was strength." Then I stepped out, leaving behind only the click of the lock. 2 weeks later, I stood on the porch one last time, keys in hand. I wasn't here to reclaim bricks and beams. I had already reclaimed my dignity. Kelsey and Darren had moved out the day before, leaving behind silence and a few boxes labeled garage they didn't bother to take. As I walked through the empty living room, I found a letter on the kitchen counter. It was from Kelsey. "Mom, I was wrong. I let appearances matter more than truth. You raised me with everything you had, and I threw it away for a crowd that doesn't know my name. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know I finally see what you did for me. Love, Kelsey." I sat for a moment, letter in hand, heart torn between ache and pride. I didn't cry. I'd shed too many tears over the years. But I smiled. A small, weathered smile. The kind that comes after surviving a storm and knowing you'll never let yourself be caught in it again. Instead of staying, I listed the house for rent. A single mother with twin daughters moved in weeks later. She hugged me the day she signed the lease and said, "We'll take care of this place, like it deserves." That was enough. As for Kelsey, she sent holiday cards now. No grand apologies, no attempts to undo what couldn't be undone. Just quiet gestures. I never stopped loving her. I just stopped letting her love me on conditions. Because I wasn't her housekeeper, I was her mother, and no one gets to rewrite that truth.